What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our ACC football channel. We missed our power rankings video last week, but we are back this week for our Week 5 power rankings. That means heading into Week 5 of the season. This is really a wrap-up of Week 4. And how bad is the ACC? We know Clemson's really good, but the rest of the conference doesn't look so good. And it's not like you've got a bunch of teams that are Fs if we're grading these teams. They just have a bunch of C+, B- type teams. There's a lot of parity in the conference. The conference is not horrible. I think that is people overreact a little bit. They just don't have many good A teams to go along with Clemson, and that's why the conference, I think, gets looked down on so much. But Georgia Tech, I think, is number 14. They had a bye week this week, but they're coming off that loss to the Citadel. Obviously, you lose to an FCS team, and you're not going to move up in the rankings. And a couple of weeks ago, last video that we did, again, we did not do a Week 4 video, but we did do a Week 3 video, and in that video, Georgia Tech was number 14. So no change for them. They stay at the bottom. A lot of work to do. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to take some time for this Georgia Tech program to kind of get things shifted, but I still think overall long-term, they're in pretty good hands with Jeff Collins. Number 13 is Louisville. Showed a lot of fight against Florida State coming back in that game. They were down early, but still, this team also has a lot of work to do. They come in at number 13. They're 2-2 now overall, 0-1 in the conference. This was their first conference game as they lose to Florida State 35-24. And again, this was a tough loss. They didn't really have any real chance in this game, so I think that hurts if you're Louisville playing a Florida State team that has struggled so far this season. So you expected to maybe be able to go in there and compete, and they really weren't able to do that. Virginia Tech is number 12. They've fallen a little bit. They didn't play this past weekend, and I realize they're 2-1. There's no reason to panic if you're Virginia Tech. There's no reason to think that this team is one of the worst teams in the ACC. But at this point, they lost to Boston College. Boston College lost to Kansas. So there's just nothing really to say that there's nothing there that where you can say Virginia Tech is a good team this year yet. Now they might be. We'll see as they get into conference play, get to play some tougher opponents. But as of now, really just don't know much about Virginia Tech. That's why they are still down here at number 12. And I can't rank them ahead of the team that beat them head-to-head. That's Boston College. They both have one loss. And that's kind of a rule for me. If you're comparing two teams and both teams have the same number of losses and they played head-to-head, I don't see how you can rank a team that won head-to-head below a team that lost head-to-head. I mean, it makes no sense. So Boston College is at number 11. This is not a very good football team. Let's just be honest. I don't know how they beat Virginia Tech the way that they did, but they lost to Kansas in a blowout. They only beat Rutgers by 14. Rutgers is horrible. So this is, again, one of those C teams in the ACC. They're capable of being pretty good, but they're not great by any means. Duke is at number 10. They are 2-1. Looking, after that Alabama game, they had a couple of easy opponents, but they took care of business, and they look pretty decent so far. This is another team, just like Virginia Tech, we really don't know much about them. And so really these teams that we've just ranked, Boston College, Duke, Virginia Tech, if you want to change the order, maybe put Duke behind Boston College and Virginia Tech, I would be okay with that. I think those three teams are pretty comparable when you try to put together a power ranking right now. But Duke, for me, is at number 10. Just because, again, I go back to how they played against Alabama early in that game. That was impressive. Number 9 is Florida State. And they move up a little bit after getting a conference win over Louisville. They are 2-2 overall now, 1-1 in the ACC. This was a very impressive win. Alex Hornibrook came in, played pretty well for them. They had a big lead early. It was 21-0. Louisville did come back and make this game somewhat interesting, but I don't think you really ever thought Florida State was going to blow that one. Cam Akers had a big day, 112 yards rushing. So Florida State getting back on track with a nice win there over Louisville, and we'll see if they can build off of that and start to play a little bit better. Number 8 is Miami. They are 2-2 overall, 0-1 in the ACC after they lost to North Carolina. They had a big win. I mean, not a big win. They survived, I should say, against Central Michigan, 17-12. It was a weird game, a low-scoring defensive game. Central Michigan had a safety. They forced a safety in this one. And Jaron Williams played pretty solid, but the offense really was just conservative once again for Miami. When are they going to open things up? That's what I'm waiting on. I think they have the talent to be able to do that. It's sort of like Michigan. A very similar story for me offensively. These teams just need to get more aggressive. Let's just open things up and see what happens. It seems like they're too afraid of making mistakes. North Carolina is at number 7 as they have fallen a little bit. They lose to App State this week. You would expect North Carolina probably to be a little bit lower, but this is still a team that has a conference win over Miami. They have a win over South Carolina. I realize they've lost a couple of games now. They lost a crazy finish to Wake Forest, had a chance to win that game. And Appalachian State is a good football team, and they lost on a blocked field goal. It's not like they were beat badly in this game. Sam Howell threw for over 300 yards. They just couldn't get it done. So North Carolina is still a solid team despite the 2 losses. NC State probably doesn't deserve to be ranked this high. They haven't beaten anyone really at this point. They only beat Ball State 34-23. So again, I'm not really all that high on this team, but they are 3-1. I'll give them some credit. The one loss came to a decent West Virginia team. So I don't know about NC State. Another one of those teams we don't know about, like Virginia Tech, like Duke. We're going to put them at number 6. But again, that might be a little bit too high. Now that I think about it, we'll see what they do coming up in the next couple of weeks. Number 5 was Syracuse, an impressive performance. Finally, we saw the Syracuse team that we thought we were going to get this year. They played pretty well on both sides of the ball. Western Michigan did put up 20 points in that third quarter to make things somewhat interesting, but yeah, Syracuse took care of business. They put up 52 points in this one against Western Michigan. The offense finally got going. And Western Michigan, again, is a good football team. Very solid team out of the MAC. So for them to go in there and blow them out like that was very impressive. I think the spread for this game was under 10. I think it was single digits. I don't remember the exact number. But a nice win there for the Orange. Number 4 is Pittsburgh, and they have climbed up big time over the last couple of weeks. I didn't talk about them last week because we didn't do a video. But they played Penn State very tough. They had a chance to win that game. That was impressive. And then this week, they come back and they beat UCF, the mighty UCF, team that hasn't lost a regular season game since 2017 or something like that. I mean, it's been a long time. Actually, it might have been 2016. I don't remember the date now. But yeah, they went undefeated in 2018, 2017, so it must have been 2016. That was a nice win for Pittsburgh. They're playing some good football. We'll see if they can continue to do that. Defense, I think, is the big story for them. They played pretty well there, despite the fact that they almost blew that game against UCF. Wake Forest, they're number 3, and they're 4-0, but they haven't really been challenged. They got the win over North Carolina. That was impressive for me. But they played Elon this week, won 49-7. Jamie Newman had over 350 yards passing. It was a very solid day for this offense, but it was against Elon. So again, we need to see a little bit more out of Wake Forest. We know they're a good team. They beat North Carolina, but we don't know how good they are. Are they a top 25 team? Maybe. We'll see. They very well could be a top 25 team. Virginia is at number 2. They've been at number 2 for me since the preseason, but it was almost this team almost came off that number 2 spot because they struggled against Old Dominion. We're down early in this game. Very similar to the opener against Pitt, where they struggled early, but then they got it going in the second half. Interesting that they've had a couple of games like that. They outscored Old Dominion 21-0 in the second half. So you saw what this team is capable of. I still think they're the second best team in the ACC. They need to play a little bit more consistent, obviously. Need to start in the first half, not in the second half. And if they can do that, I think they have a real shot to get to the ACC championship, where they would meet this team, Clemson, who is number 1. 52-10 win over Charlotte. They are 4-0, 2-0 in the ACC, and there's no one even close to them in this conference. Trevor Lawrence in this game, he was 7 for 9 for 94 yards. That's all he had to play. That's all he had to do because they were playing Charlotte, and it was an easy win. They dominated this game, and it was no surprise there. And then, of course, put in the backups, let your foot off the gas a little bit, and that's why. I mean, they could have probably put up 100 if they wanted to, but Clemson, to me, is still clearly the best team in the ACC, and I still have them as the best team overall in the country as well. So they will round out our Week 5 power rankings. It's very tough to rank these teams behind Clemson because they are all jumbled up, but I did the best that I could. I'd love to know how you have these teams ranked and what you thought about my rankings down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on our ACC football channel.